Outcast looks a little bit different this week. We're actually over in our counseling office across the street from the church. And I'm here with Jeremiah. Thank you for being with us, Jeremiah. Just a couple of things to set up the discussion here, okay? We are talking about lust. We're talking about pornography today. And so maybe if people have kids listening or sensitive ears nearby, it might be a good idea, a good time to have them leave the room or choose another time to listen to this week's episode. But the statistics are alarming. When you look at even inside of the church, at in Christian community, as many as 2/3 of men and many women as well are viewing pornography, they will confess, on a regular basis. This is not only affecting marriages and families, but certainly the personal, emotional life of the men and women who are really in bondage. They're stuck. And so I want to talk about this broader issue of not just pornography, but lust. And so maybe we could start by just talking about what is pornography, because it is actually a bigger topic than maybe most people might think of when they use that word.
Yeah. So what I've run into, which can be confusing at times for a lot of guys, because there's this sense of, I'm a sexual person, or maybe I'm just attracted to women, or maybe other men, or the same for gals. We tend to just put pornography over into a category where it's just sex, and it's something you find on the internet, and it's sex, and there's people consensually engaging it, whatever it may be. The hard part is, it goes beyond that. So, I've noticed in my life, as the more I've dug into this, because pornography is a huge problem in my life, and in a lot of lives of, like I said, 2/3, was it, about?
Yeah.
For guys in the church, that it's more than that, and it starts going into areas like your Instagram posts and your feeds and Facebook, my day-to-day life. Pornography is not just sex, but it's everything around sexuality, interacting, the way I interact with it. And it's funny because I've heard it called the spirit of porneia by some who are in this realm, where it's not just watching people have sex, but it's this drive to fulfill a need with something sexual in many cases. And so it's a little bit hard to nail down a definition at that point of what it is and isn't. But for me, it's been basically using arousing images to cope with my emotions. That's for me.
And that's what it is. And I appreciate you so much here, because not only are you somebody who is walking in victory more and more so all of the time, but you're now walking alongside other men. You are leading in community and helping other men to see that it is more than just merely sex or biology, but there is actually a deeper emotional trauma or injury or pain, something that they're experiencing on an emotional level, that they're using pornography or the spirit of porneia, this kind of greater escape or treatment or soothing for something much deeper. Maybe you have something more to say about that.
Yeah, so years back, started having this conviction of I need to go deeper and open up about this stuff with people. And I ended up into finding groups of people and communities to try to deal with this. And the current community I'm in right now has been super helpful. So we're going in deeper to find the issues of what's going on. Because I've been told all my life that literally it's just because I want sex. I'm a guy, I'm a pig, I'm a pervert. That's why you want sex. But then I start running into all these other people and start learning about it, and the way Jesus interacts with people who have sexual sin, he doesn't behave like that. He doesn't talk towards them like that. And we started going deeper and find out that actually almost 100% of the time, I can probably confidently say 100% of the time, there's a deeper wound that you're trying to fill or protect, like a bandage over the top with pornography. So you have a wound or something broken and there's a hole, and you just cover it over the top with porn and sex. And that could literally be as simple as every time I open my Instagram, there's that gal that I've not unfollowed, or that guy who I've chosen not to unfollow that always has something sexual on their feed. And like, it gives me a hit and kind of picks me up and helps me get over the hump of the pain of my day. And that's what I've been pushing to do. Like, Jesus pushed me towards this. I ended up in a community of guys, and taking the risk of stepping out to actually open up with the community of guys to handle this. And we have noticed that behind every single set of coping mechanisms, whether it's homosexual desires or heterosexual desires or anything that you might think is 10 times worse than that or not as bad, has wounding and some deeper brokenness behind it. It's not just the act of sex.
The guys that I talk to, when I ask them, I don't say, "Are you struggling with pornography?" I actually say, "When was the last time that you viewed pornography?" And it takes them, it gets them off of guard, because this is such a common issue that we're not talking about. We're all sitting in silence. We're all hiding in the darkness of shame around the emotional struggle that we're having, not even having an awareness that that's what we're even doing. We're just kind of acting on an urge without really thinking about it, just covering over the wound, not dealing with the pain. And so when I asked them, why wouldn't you join the communities that we have at Outward Church? Why wouldn't you get help for this? And you've shared with me before, I thought it was really, really insightful about like this hesitation a person would have to even admit they have a problem.
Yeah.
I was hoping you could share with me about that.
Yeah. So this is where it gets really hard for me still, personally. I mean, this is like something I still deal with all the time. Whenever, and this is maybe a little bit of a story, so we'll get there. But whenever I've gone to pornography or a coping mechanism, as we call it, like anytime I've used something to cover up pain, I come out on the backside of it, like feeling this overwhelming sense of shame, where it's like, man, I can't believe you just did that again. Like, I should be able to change. I should have done that. And then there's this like immediate thought, like that hits the brakes of like, whoa, you're okay. It's gonna be all right. You're fine. And then you kind of like level out and you start to recover and you go about your day-to-day business. And then I realized like, wow, I keep going back to this over and over again. And this has been something I've done for years. The reason why I never talk to people about it is that I was incredibly afraid. And I still am incredibly afraid to talk about it with a lot of people, honestly. Like, the shame of having anything to do with sex that's broken is just overwhelming for me. The rejection that can come from opening up and talking about it is like exponentially worse. Like, I'm so afraid of getting rejected. And there have been times where I've had that reinforced, where I like go tell someone, hey, pornography is a problem in my life, and they go, I can't believe you would ever do such a thing. And that's happened. But that rejection and that shame that like drives you to hide, that is a tool to drag you away from Jesus. Like, that is a barrier to drag me away from Jesus. And I'm always afraid that someone's going to attack me, like someone's going to reject me, or they're going to hate me, which doesn't make any sense because everyone else is also doing it too, or a huge portion of people are doing, pornography or sexual sin of some sort. So like I said, pornography is not just like watching people have sex on the internet, but it's like the way you look at other people, the way you interact with other people. Those kind of like relationships, those emotional relationships we have with people can hit that same center of pornography in your brain, or the same center that triggers in your brain. But the shame, the rejection, the fear, those are big reasons why people don't open up about it.
The promises that we have in Scripture is that we can have a renewed mind and a cleansed heart. We can start to develop new passions and new desires. We can be healed. These are the promises that are in Scripture. But the problem is we're in the dark, okay? Because of shame, the enemy uses shame. They keep us in the dark, and we don't talk to each other about it Because if we started talking to each other about it, we would realize we're not so alone.
Oh, yeah.
We are not so hideous and shameful that nobody should ever know about what is happening. We would realize this is a common struggle, and that what we find in God's Word is, in the ministry of Jesus, is healing, real heart transformation and change. And so the first step is, and I identified so much with what you said, the first step is, this actually is a problem. There's that moment right after a moment of indiscretion, right after where you realize, I'm lost. I'm hopelessly lost. And every moment thereafter, and this is something that you shared with me that stood out, every moment thereafter now is a justification or a reassurance that says, I'm okay. No, I'm actually okay. I don't actually need help. I don't need to talk about this. I've got this under control.
Yeah.
And then it happens again. Shame in that moment, that one moment, I need help. And then from that moment on, we're convincing ourselves we don't. Why do other methods not work? So if the first step then is, I need help, the things that we turn to typically will be accountability or software blocking or whatever, right? Why do those things typically not work? Why do I not have success with the self-help?
From experience, I've done all these things, and not saying that they don't work. Some people it works well for, very few. And I would say that the number is much smaller than we realize for who it works really effectively for and actually brings out true healing. The reason why is most programs like rubber band snapping. I run into guys all the time. You're like, I wear a rubber band, so every time I look at a girl or a girl walking around with a rubber band on her wrist, saying every time I look at a guy wrong, or I snap myself. Or the accountability stuff is like, oh, someone's gonna catch you. It tends to be shame and rejection based. So you should be ashamed of yourself. We're gonna put a camera on you so someone can catch you in your shameful act. Or you should snap yourself on the skin and cause yourself pain because you're not worthy. Like you deserve the pain for doing this. And obviously some people don't have that mindset towards it, but that's the baggage we see carried into like the group of guys I'm in right now, like where we don't do that. And we see more healing because it's not shame and rejection based. It's like we actually go down to find the root issue and heal it with the gospel, like with the Bible. And the accountability stuff, it's really challenging because you also have this standard of, I'm going to have to get advice from someone who's also probably dealing with pornography too. And they're going to have to tell me I'm a bad person, or they're going to have to address me and say, hey man, you shouldn't have done that. But all those like rejection and shame based approaches, it's not good. Like it doesn't actually lead to true healing. It ends up leading to more clamming up and more shame, which then leads back to pornography, honestly.
What I've appreciated that you share with me is that as guys come in looking to modify the behavior of viewing pornography, they become aware of the reason why they're doing it. And so what I want to talk about is what then is different? What then is different about getting into a community of men who get it and say, I've been where you are. I am where you are. Let's be open and honest with each other, coming into the light. People who see and know and understand the gospel that says Jesus is calling us to come as we are, and he's offering to carry us, to help us, to walk through these things with us, to heal us ultimately, and not just modify our behavior. So what would a person expect to see that's different when they come to be a part of the communities that we're offering at Outward Church?
Oh man, a lot. I think the first thing I remember is you realize that you're not worse than everybody. That was so embarrassing to realize, like, wow, yeah, I have a dark and broken life, but so do they, and so does that guy, and that one, and that one, and that one, and they're all here sharing it and being open and honest with each other. So like that honesty and realizing that I'm on a path with a bunch of other people was just incredibly overwhelming for me. I think I might have spent some time crying about it the first, couple times I had gone to a community of like, there are other people doing this. Like, there are other people struggling, and they've been trying to fight against their flesh and Satan by themselves this whole time. And that's why we've been going to church together, is to try to be closer, and we just haven't gotten there. That's different. That's different. Like, you go deeper and you actually see the real hurts and brokenness with people. And that just is, for me, is transforming. Like, right out of the gate, to know that there's other people who, one, care, two, who are honest and open. And then once we get there, three, they don't reject me. Like, they didn't throw me out. And then I'm so energized by that. Like, the next guy that comes in and has something really heavy, I'm like, dude, you're right there with me. I'm not going to get rid of you. I'm not going to throw you away. And that immediately tackles the pain and the fear that I had. Like, that tackles the problem of, they're not going to abandon me in this. That was what I noticed. And then from there, obviously, we take steps to actually deal with the problems. You know, we don't just sit there and talk with each other about our problems all day. We actually address them. But we address it from a place of, like, you have a clean slate to work from, instead of this baggage and trying to fix the baggage. You have a clean slate before Jesus. It's really cool.
It is a commitment, right? You guys meet every Monday night,
Yeah.
and we've got a new group starting up, hopefully very, very soon. So but it is a commitment. You meet every single week. You stay committed to this group of guys, and so we are focused on the man, the wounds, the injuries, the hurt, and the behavior, of course. But there is impacts to the family too, isn't there? Maybe you could share your experience when you maybe finally had a conversation with your wife.
Yeah.
You're married. Yeah. Maybe this is the thing that is keeping guys from reaching out and getting help. Maybe I can handle some other guys knowing about it, but I haven't even been able to talk to my wife about it.
Yeah.
So maybe you could share some of that.
That's a super heavy topic, because there are some relationships that do have enough brokenness between them already, and there's a lot of tension that more healing needs to take place. And there are other communities and counseling nights and meetings for that to be able to take place, so you can prepare those kinds of conversations. But my experience, and a lot of the other guys' experience in our group, have been that they said, I can never share this with my wife because I need to protect her. Like, flat out. They say, I can't let her know because it will hurt her too much. What I've realized, that's just a lie. I mean, there's a huge lie in that, in the sense of, you aren't the Holy Spirit. You aren't responsible for your wife's protection in a spiritual sense. Obviously, we do have this spiritual leadership, and there's a biblical leadership where, like, hey, if we see something coming into our family, we chop it off. We get rid of it. If there's something that's going to negatively affect your wife and your family, we fight against it. But this situation is really funny, needs to be navigated very carefully, because the lie guys get into telling themselves is that I've got to continue in secrecy, I've got to continue in shame because my wife will reject me. And that's fear, shame, and rejection all over again. That's what causes pornography. What I found out is that the more I opened up to this, the more I healed my relationship with Jesus, and the more I talked to even my wife about it, it caused a lot of pain, but we uprooted those roots of pain and healed them, made progress, and actually have a tremendously better relationship. Like, when I mean tremendously better, I mean, like, we are closer and more in tune with each other than we've ever been. It's a little frustrating to think that we had to go down a really painful path with pornography and talking about this stuff with each other, because for a lot of guys, like, it's not just pornography, but it's affairs and massage parlors and even sexual abuse towards them or other people. Those things can be healed. And it takes a lot of work. The benefit of that is it creates deeper intimacy with the people around you, and that can include your wife too. It's a risk, but it can.
The invitation from Jesus is to bring these things into the light. It's true in our relationships. It's true with each other. We're invited to confess to each other with the anticipation that we're going to be shown grace and forgiveness. We're going to be shown forgiveness. We're anticipating that. That's what Jesus gives to us and says, go and do the same. So I just want to thank you for being here. You have something that you're offering. So Outward Church is wanting to support whoever is encountering this, whether this is a wife who's saying that she needs help for herself or maybe for her husband, single people, maybe even teens, we want to put counseling support for the couple, for the relationship. We want to support the wife whose husband is struggling and vice versa. But maybe somebody still has some hesitations to reach out, to be like known. Number one, our communities are anonymous. It's a totally anonymous sign-up process. None of the staff at Outward even knows that somebody has signed up.
Oh, yeah.
But maybe there's a half step, and this is something that you've offered. A half step before signing up, they want to talk to somebody about what would it be like to be a part of a community at Outward. You've offered to talk with them, right? And we'll put, we'll work out how that exactly happens. We'll put the number in the description of the video. But what are you offering to somebody who is considering being a part of this group?
Yeah. There's probably a lot of people who know who I am already and could probably recognize my face. So it's like, hey, come talk to me. I want to hear from you. It doesn't matter if you're a girl or if you're a guy or a kid. We have communities for that already, which is really hard for some people to acknowledge and see that they have a safe place for them. But you don't have to just dive right in because it can be scary. Honestly, just come talk to me. My wife is available too to talk to. She's an incredible resource for all this, to just be like, hey, I want to talk through this and see what you think about it. We're here, we're open for that, and we're not going to reject you. And we've been telling people that as we meet them, it's like, man, I know you've got a lot going on, but we're not going to leave you in this. We're not just going to abandon you, and we're not going to shame you. We're going to be there with you in it. So that's our offer for people. It's like, man, just come talk to us. Just open up about it. Don't just keep it to yourself and your text messaging buddies, but like, come talk to me. And I think I'm going to be able to understand. There's a lot of people who understand.
I hope we fill these classes up, not because we have a huge issue in Outward. I know that we do.
Oh, yeah.
I hope we fill it up because we have guys who say, I'm done hiding. I'm done with shame. I'm done with the fear of rejection. And I want to bring this into light. I want the healing that Jesus has.
Yeah.
I hope we fill the classes up. I'm looking forward to it.